Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 64 of the Canberra Football Show, round 17 review. And joining me today are two guys that probably as mad as Tuchel and Conte were on the weekend with United start to the season. It's Russ and Michael. Russ, we'll start with you.
Hello,
long
mate.
time
How are
no see
you?
on the show.
Thanks. Good to be back. To be honest, I didn't watch it on the weekend, so I can't comment. But I did see the scoreline, and yeah, they're not very good. Strongest team in the division, though, because they're holding everybody else up. And I'm pretty convinced that they'll get promoted next season if they go down. So,
Look at the positives.
there's plenty of positives. Look, at the end of the day, it just goes to show how popular they are because they're bottom of the table and rubbish, and everyone's still talking about them.
Very true.
Indeed. Michael, how's it going?
Yeah, going all right, Matt. Obviously not happy with sort of what's going on with Man United at the moment. But on the flip side of that, Inter were able to win on the weekend. So it sort of brought me a little bit of joy, even though it was a sort of fairly dark weekend in terms of that result. So that shed a little bit of light on it. So a little bit of happiness there, but we don't have to get into that result. It was shocking.
Look, at least Pogba's not there, Michael.
Sorry?
At least Pogba's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
No. Well, we can't blame him anymore, can we?
No. It would have been 6 or 7 if he was there.
Yeah, let's kick things off. It was Canberra Olympic up against West Canberra Wanderers, though the home team were able to get a 2-0 victory in this game. Goal scorers were James in the first half and McCaw in the second half. A crucial win for Canberra Olympic, that keeps their status in the NPL, competition for next season more alive. And, I think West Canberra actually started this match pretty well. They created themselves a fair few sort of opportunities to start this game. And I just think that was a very sort of positive start for them to really put the pressure on, Olympic. But it was Olympic who opened the scoring through, like I mentioned, James in the 37th minute. He added yet another goal to his tally this season. He's been a great player, like we've talked about sort of numerous times already so far this season. And it was a confident finish into the back of the net to give his team a 1-0 lead. And then after the break, 8 minutes into it, in the 53rd minute, it was McCaw who made it 2-0 after the restart. It was a very low and powerful shot, sort of a cross goal, past the keeper to double his team's advantage. It was a very good finish, helped obviously double their advantage. And, this result that they were able to get, the 2-0 victory, they're still sort of in the same place that they're at sixth, but they can move up to fifth place on the table if they win their game in hand. So that's obviously a very crucial sort of fact to mention there. And obviously for West Canberra, it means they go back to the bottom of the NPL ladder following a huge result, which we'll get into sort of shortly, that Matt will discuss at length. But a very, very good result for Canberra Olympic, just in terms of obviously the battle that's going on there, sort of towards the bottom end of the table. Russ, what did you make of this result for both, Olympic getting a much needed win, and for West Canberra, it not being so good as they find themselves back at the bottom of the ladder?
Yeah, I think it's a really bitter blow for West Canberra Wanderers. Not so much losing the game, but they would have come off at the end of that game expecting Belconnen to have been beaten by Gungahlin United, and we'll get into that in a moment. But this is a dagger blow for them because they've fought their way so hard to get off the foot of the table. They've done everything they possibly can at the moment. Then they lose this one, and all of a sudden they're back to square one again. And you've got to wonder if they've got the heart now and the character, if they could lift themselves up again. Massive game again for them on the weekend against Tigers, which we'll talk about later. But it's a big bitter blow for them because of the defeat, and obviously coupled with Belco's win. For Olympic, they're still on the cusp of the 4. If they can get the 3 points against O'Connor Knights on Wednesday, they're still in with a shout. They've got some good players coming back into that squad now, but they're still anxiously looking over their shoulder as well, and they've got a big match this weekend too. So Vital 3 points for Canberra Olympic, really important for them to get the points on the board, and they'll be very happy that they've done so. Work's not done for them yet. They've still got plenty to do. For West Canberra Wanderers, real test of character and their determination. We've seen it all season. We know that they've got that in them, that they're that kind of side. They're not going to lie down, but they need someone now, and it might be the skippers, it might be the more senior players they've got, it might be their coaching staff, to be able to pick them up and say, look, we've dragged ourselves off the foot of the table once. We need to do it again. We've still got 4 rounds left to do, 12 points to play for. The gap's not that big. Belconnen have got some tough matches to come. So have Canberra Olympic. So it's not all over for them, but it would have been a huge, huge disappointment for them when they came off that field at O'Connor on the weekend.
Most definitely. Matt, what's our next game?
Our next game, like you guys referred to there, Belconnen United against Gungahlin United. Russ and I were on the call for this one. Christian Crescas and Bo Harvey were the goal scorers in this one in the first and second half, respectively. Both sides were missing some key players heading into this one for various reasons. Some of the players that were missing for Belco were the likes of Max Green and Chris Ray, to name a couple, while Gunners were missing the likes of Bernabeu Madrid, both have Temerians. Nick Rathnan, just to mention a few there were a few more also missing for them. Belconnen United opened the scoring in the opening 6 minutes as Dustin Wells put a fantastic ball over the top to Christian Crescas, who hit a shot which was blocked by the keeper, and then Crescas pounced on the rebound to make it 1-0. Early on, Nico Abbott came off and it looked really bad. Wishing him all the best. Hopefully it wasn't as bad as it looked. Maybe Russ might have an update on that one. Belconnen United made it 2-0 after Chris Fayers won the ball deep in his own half, made a run and placed a beautiful through ball to Bo Harvey, who was able to place it past the keeper on the edge of the box to seal the victory for Belconnen, which was a crucial victory for them. This victory also means that Belconnen go from the bottom to 7th place and off the bottom as well. They are still 1 point behind Olympic in 6th place and now 2 points off Tigers in 5th place. For Gungahlin, this loss means they are now 9 points behind Canberra, Croatia in 1st place. And they also only lead Monaro by 1 point in 3rd place. So it's getting tight there between 3rd and 2nd. What were your thoughts on this one, Russ?
Yeah, we talked about it during the commentary on the weekend, and great result for Belconnen United. Talked about character and determination. They needed to show it in spades after losing last week. They dropped to the bottom of the table. There was severe talk around the grounds, obviously, that they'd still be there this weekend because they wouldn't beat Gungahlin United. Were they given a helping hand that the Gunners were missing by so many players? Well, yeah, of course they were. Missing some key players throughout the team, as well as all the ones you mentioned there. Leon Mickle, who's been in great form this season. You only had to look at the bench for Gungahlin United. It was only a few weeks ago we were talking about their bench being stacked with forward attacking players. This weekend they had Cornell Addison, Jack Matic, Jack Rowley and Jacob Quinn as their full substitutes. So you could see that there was a real lack of depth in that Gungahlin team. In saying that, it's not, you only play what's in the shirts in front of you. You can't legislate for what the opposition's going to pick. So we've talked about how Belconnen United needed to pick themselves up. They were missing Max Green, and we thought that's a major blow for them. He's their main striker. They were missing a couple of others. Phil Bourgeot was out as well. But they've done remarkably well. They took their chances, and they were well worth the victory in the end. Gungahlin were kept at arm's length. Let's not forget as well a debut for Dylan Porat-Cullen in goal. I think he did quite well, the young lad. But Belconnen United, Michael Zukowski and his team can take great credit for where they've managed to pull themselves up off the canvas this week and get the 3 points. It's not done for them yet. They've still got plenty more points to play for. They've still got plenty to do. But if they show the character that they showed on the weekend, if they show the spirit that that club showed, and you could see what it meant to them at the full-time whistle just to get the 3 points, that they will be in with a great shout at staying up. And, you know, most people at the start of the season wouldn't have put them down into that relegation candidate position. Nervy times coming up for them in the next few weeks as well, but they'll be confident that they can build on this win and move on. As for Nico Abbott, unfortunately, it looks like he snapped his Achilles tendon, which is going to be a very, very long time out for him. At his age as well, he's getting a bit older in terms of the veteran status, and it's a nasty injury, and we wish him all the very best. Lovely bloke if you get the chance to talk to him. He's doing a fair bit of coaching out at Gungahlin as well, of the juniors, and passing on his years of expertise, having travelled the globe playing football. So all the best, Nico. Get yourself fit soon, mate. We hope to see you back on the field of Canberra next season.
Indeed. Best of luck in that recovery there. Michael, who do we have next?
Our next matchup was Tigers FC up against O'Connor Knights. A thrilling 2-2 draw in this one, guys. An entertaining game on display between these two teams again this season. And it was Sam Whittier with 2 goals for Tigers. And for O'Connor, it was Manda and Adams on the score sheet for the visitors. Tigers got off to the start that they would have hoped for when, Sam Whittier produced a nice finish after, being set up by Josh Golevsky. It was a well-worked goal from Tigers there, and it sort of just highlighted their sort of positive start to the encounter. And, they took that 1-0 advantage into the break, and then sort of just after 10 minutes into the second half, that's where he was able to score his second goal of the game, when he found himself in a little bit of space at the back post from a corner and sort of just nodded the ball confidently into the back of the net, makes it 2-0. And from that point, you're thinking that, the Tigers are sort of steadily on their way to, claiming 3 points, especially after grabbing that second goal, which I think came at an important time for them. But, O'Connor, thought they'd got themselves sort of back in the game after 70 minutes following it was sort of like a scramble in the box. And you could see all the sort of commotion when they thought that the ball had sort of crossed the line, but it wasn't given. So, that sort of just added to their sort of frustrations in trying to get themselves back into the contest. But to their credit, they never give up. And, that was on full display in injury time. I mean, there was a stack of it added on to this game, which sort of helped them, weirdly enough, even though they were 2-0 down. And they pounced on a defensive error at the start of injury time. Sorry, it was Manda who sort of pounced on the opportunity. He struck his strike sort of in off the post, and at that point, sorry, it was 2-1, and it sort of sets it up for a sort of monumental finish at that point. And sort of in the lead up to the equalizer in this one, it was a stunning counter attack from the Knights, working the ball from the defensive end all the way through to the final third. And they scored the equalizer there in the I think it was the 99th minute of play, which is just crazy through Adams. And you can see sort of the relief that was sort of sprung around that O'Connor Knights team when Adams scored, and he picks up the ball and he sort of just kicks it up in the air to really sort of emphasize the hard work that they put in to get that draw. So obviously Tigers, what this means for the table, obviously Tigers are still in 5th, Knights are still in 4th by 4 points over Tigers, but they do have a game in hand, so that could prove very, very important for the Knights. But what an entertaining game. And Russ, you're sitting there thinking that Tigers have a 2-0 advantage. They've just got to hold on in injury time. And even though there's a stack of it bunched up, you didn't really think that O'Connor were going to come back and score 2 goals, but that's exactly what they did, and it was a share of the spoils.
Probably sums up O'Connor's season, doesn't it, in the way that they attack, they don't give up, they keep going and going and going, and they got their reward. Tigers will ask the question, of which many people will, is where that 10 minutes came from. That's an awful lot of time to be adding on for injuries. Now, to caveat that, I've not seen the full 90 minutes of the game, so I can't really comment on where that 10 minutes of injury time has come from. Match officials obviously feel that there was enough stoppages or time wasting or whatever it might have been to justify that. I think it's, and I've not seen myself that before. I mean, 10 minutes is an awful long time when there's not been an injury or something, or something that's caused a long delay. As it was, though, Tigers are 2-0 up. Sam Whittier scored his first 2 goals of the season. He's been threatening to do that throughout most of the campaign. It's good to see him get on the score sheet. 2 well-taken goals as well. Lovely move, as you mentioned, for the first one. The ball out from the back from Anthony Timotheo was gorgeous, and Josh Golevsky, well, cut inside, could easily have had it himself, rolled it to his mate, and Sam Whittier still had plenty to do in a crowded penalty area, but took his time and tucked it away rather beautifully into the corner. And the header was rather more routine, met corner and firm header. And then they were in the box seat, and they should really have been plenty more. They've had one-on-one chances, about 4 or 5 of them during the game that they didn't put away. And it's been the story of their season. They've now moved on to a record-breaking 8 draws in the campaign, which is the most ever in a capital football season, which they've now been joined with by Monaro Panthers, which we'll talk about later. So 2 teams who managed 8 draws, knocking Tuggeranong off their perch from last year. For O'Connor Knights, incredible ending. What an ending to the match. And it's just a good attitude and a good way to show youngsters out there that you never give up in a game of football. You're 2-0 down in stoppage time, the game's done. You pull one back, it feels like it's a consolation. And just on that note, how many times have you seen Rocco Stricker stand on football in the 6-yard box? Never. It doesn't happen, does it? But you've got to be alert to it. And it wasn't just Fakedi Mandy who was there. Michael Adams was there too. One of them could have just smacked it in the corner. And then, of course, they break superbly. Gabriel Ayul off the bench, he's been very good in that situation throughout the year, and his ball in was turned in by Michael Adams, who's had a really rough time of it in recent weeks with injury, and you can see the relief on his face. What a player he is. And the Connor Knights having him back all gives them a huge lift into keeping that top 4 spot if they can. Starts for them again Wednesday against the Canberra Olympic. They need to win that. If they do, they've got a stranglehold on that 4th place, and it's theirs to lose. But it was once again Canberra football doing what Canberra football does, and you can never ever say a game's done until it's over, because you can see what happens.
Absolutely. Matt, what's our last match for this round?
Our final game was one that Russ called with Steve Forshaw over at Deakin Stadium. Canberra Croatia 2, Monaro Panthers 2. Barrach with both the goals for Canberra Croatia, and Michael John and Amate Busek own goal. In terms of Monaro, first and foremost, Michael John played his 100th NPL game. Congratulations to him. Great achievement. There's been quite a few milestones recently with a lot of players, which is good to see. Canberra Croatia opened the score in the 8th minute with some great passing around the box, which ended with Cecilia squaring it for Daniel Barrach to find the bottom corner. In the second half, Michael John began the Monaro comeback in the 57th minute as Darren Bailey worked his way through the midfield, couple of 1-2s before laying it off to John, who buried it past Sam Brown. What a way for him to celebrate his 100th NPL matchup. And as well as his first league goal for Monaro Panthers. Monaro went ahead 11 minutes later. Seb Woods whipped in a very nice ball over the top to Ben Basser-Silk. When Basser-Silk went for the header, so did Mate Busek, and it came off Busek as he tried to clear it, which meant that it was an own goal for Busek. And 11 minutes later, seems to be 11 minutes a lot this game, the home side struck to make it level as Taneski put a through ball to Barrach with Kyle Sr. slipping in an attempt to try and get the ball, and Barrach took advantage of that and buried it. This result means that Canberra Croatia extend their lead over second place. Gungahlin United by 9 points at the top of the table, and the top 2 will play each other next week, though at Deakin, like we'll mention shortly. And Monaro's result here means that the visitors still sit in 3rd place, but are now only 1 point behind Gungahlin United. And as the top 4 play each other next week, we could see some changing in the standings. So it'll be an interesting weekend this weekend. Russ, you were obviously there commentating it. What did you think about the whole match?
Yeah, great match to watch again. Another cracking encounter between 2 sides. Excuse me. Canberra Croatia have been in great form recently, of course, and they've been blown sides away inside the first 20 minutes. They've been. I think it was 3 goals in the first half hour in 4 of their last 5 games or something. It's quite phenomenal. And they started off again like that on the weekend. You thought, well, they're right in the routine here, and they scored early again. Beautiful goal, well worked, and they looked like they could roll all over the top of Monaro. But suddenly, the Panthers, I think they're found made of stern stuff, and Canberra Croatia tried to play them off the park playing football, which didn't work. They dug in, so it became quite physical, and then it didn't work, and they dug in. And it was a great match between 2 sides who were really evenly balanced. And 2-2 was a fair result at the end of the day. There was chances at both ends. You mentioned the turnaround from Monaro was excellent in the second half. Again, Canberra Croatia started the second half much like they started the first. They were quick out the blocks, and they were all over the Panthers for the first 5 minutes or so. And then the Panthers started playing some football and scored a lovely equaliser. The weighted pass from Darren Bailey to Michael John was superb, and the finish was excellent. And then they've got a bit of luck with the own goal. Mate Busek does what every good midfielder does, tracks his runner, and then unfortunately hits him on their back and drops into the net. Not an earthly for Sam Brown. But you then question Canberra Croatia. Well, this is the first test they've had in about 4 or 5 weeks. How are they going to respond to this? Since round 11, really. And they responded as champions elect do. They went up the other end. They knocked on the door. And then when there was one half chance, as you said, Carl Senior slips. Daniel Barrett is there to take it on his non-preferred right foot, rifles it home, and they get themselves a share of the points. And as we'll talk about in a minute, it gives them a chance to take home the league championship next weekend at home in front of their home fans. And once again, a cracking game of football. Two teams that really went for it. Can't wait for the final series because we've already got three sides pretty much confirmed that play great football in Croatia, Gungahlin and Monaro. Also, there's no real love lost between those three teams either. So you're going to get a proper feisty football match, a proper football match. All three teams are full of winners that want to win football games. And we're going to have a super final series. And can't wait for that. But we've still got 4 more weeks of this to look forward to.
We certainly do. Michael, what are our matches for round 18?
Yeah, so our matches for round 18, Matt, we kick things off in West Canberra, where it is the West Canberra Wanderers up against Tigers FC. That'll be a very good match. Saturday, August 20th, 2:15 at Melrose Synthetic, followed by Canberra Olympic up against Belconnen United. That will be also another fantastic game. Saturday, August 20th, 3 p.m. at O'Connor Enclosed. Canberra, Croatia will then play host to Gungahlin United. They're at Deakin Stadium, Saturday, August 20th at 5 p.m. So you can get out there and watch that one if you so happen to watch any of the first 2 games there. And then you've got the Monaro Panthers up against O'Connor Knights, Saturday, August 20th, 5:45 at Riverside there. So, I mean, from top to bottom, some absolutely cracking games on this weekend for NPL.
Yeah, just to change on the fixtures as well. West Canberra Wanderers versus Tigers FC is going to be shifted, I think, to 2:45. There'll be a bit of a change for that one. So you can still get across, as Michael says, to Deakin Stadium to watch it. And of course, it's a chance for Canberra Croatia to win their 25th league championship on the weekend. A win against Gungahlin United will do it for them. They'll claim the title if they get that. They can even get it with the points, depending on whether Monaro Panthers fell to beat O'Connor Knights. So everything to play for there. Should be a corker of a game, that one. Really looking forward to it. I'll be there on Saturday evening. I think Angela Constantino is going to join me for that one as well. Really looking forward to what should be a cracking match between those two teams. And Croatia with a chance to wrap it up in front of their own fans.
And welcome back for our NPLW section of the show. Only 2 games this week, though, due to wet weather and closed grounds on certain days in certain areas as well. We'll start with the game that I commentated on the weekend. Canberra United Academy lost 2-1 to Gungahlin United. Rachel Corbett and Sharon Chow with the goals for Gungahlin and Kaylee Tanini own goal in terms of the CUA. Rachel Corbett for Gungahlin United was playing her 150th NPLW game. Congratulations to her. A great achievement. And Gungahlin opened the scoring after a corner from Erica Pennyfield, which found Rachel Corbett in space, and she unleashed a pinpoint header for the opener. What a way for her to celebrate her 150th NPLW game. Gungahlin United double their lead 2 minutes into the first half as Sharon Chow unleashed one hell of a strike from well outside the box that essentially dinked the keeper and under the crossbar. Great strike from her. CUA half the deficit after Letitia Babbage hit a great strike that hit the crossbar and it came back and ricocheted off the back of Kaylee Tanini and went in. So it was classified as an own goal after it was looked at. This victory for Gungahlin means they are now 4 points ahead of CUA in 5th place and are 6 points off West Canberra. West Canberra do have a game in hand, but Andrew Woodman signed also do have a game in hand. I think like nearly every team in NPLW has a game in hand except for CUA actually. So that has just been one of those couple of weeks with the rain and whatnot. So a lot of matches to be replayed in NPLW. And once again, though, it was a very, very good performance from Andrew Woodman's side. And I believe they're still yet to lose to anyone who is in Canberra, Croatia or Canberra Olympics since Andrew Woodman has took charge. So he's been off to an absolutely flying start. And they've won something like, I'll get rid of that bit because anyway, he's been off to an absolutely flying start. So well done to Gungahlin in that regard. Regarding CUA, this loss means they are now 4 points behind Gungahlin, like I just said, in 6th place. but they still remain 7 points above Tuggeranong United, who still have a game or two in hand. I believe they actually have 2 games in hand, Tuggeranong United. Yep, Tuggeranong United actually have 2 games in hand, where every other team bar CUA have 1 game in hand. So still a lot to play for besides the other rounds. Michael, who do we have next?
Yeah, next up was a big game, Matt. It was Canberra Olympic getting the victory over Belconnen United, 2-1 in this one. It was Sykes and Thornton on the score sheet for Olympic in the second half. But before that, it was Kira Bobbin who scored for Belconnen United in the opening stanza. A big win for Olympic, Matt. Like I said, sort of keeps them in second spot on the ladder. It still gives them a bit of, space now as well after this victory above Belco, who are in third. And I think for this game, they started on the front foot. However, Bobbin, scored a goal that sort of looked like a cross sort of on first viewing when you watch it back. I mean, she might claim that it was a shot, just one of those things. You never truly know what was going through sort of the player's mind at that point. But nevertheless, it was a great goal that sort of dinked over the keeper into the far corner of the goal mat. And that was 1-0 to Belco at that stage to really make good on their sort of good start to the game in the opening 15 minutes of play there. And, another good thing that Belco did really well in that first half is that they were able to keep Olympic out and keep them scoreless until the break. So they had a halftime advantage going in. And that's something that a lot of teams in this competition have struggled to do against a superior side like Canberra Olympic have proven to be this year. I mean, you've seen sort of all season, Matt, how they're able to score goals, and they've got many, many sort of different pathways in terms of players that can get on the score sheet. So Belco did a phenomenal job to keep them out for 45 minutes. And unfortunately, though, they weren't able to hold out for much longer, as Sykes, was inside the box at the right place at the right time, as a sort of instinctual striker always does, just happens to be at the right place there to knock the ball in and level the game. And you thought from that moment onwards that maybe Olympic would, they'd push on now that they grabbed the equaliser. And there was a huge moment in the game when Belco go down to 10 players. And, this presented a key opportunity for, Olympic to, really take a foothold in the game in the last sort of, 15, 20 minutes. And that's exactly what they did. They took advantage of the sending off, and Thornton scored a free kick, Matt, from just outside the area. And she makes it 2-1, and that's what seals the victory for Olympics. So they had to go through a little bit of, a bit of a battle, which is something we haven't been really used to seeing them endure unless they're playing, an opposition like Canberra, Croatia. So, I mean, for them to sort of go through a scenario like this where they've played a side excluding Croatia and sort of have to come back from behind and will their way to come back and win, I think will do that side plenty of confidence heading into finals football, Matt. So a huge win for Canberra Olympic. And like you mentioned at the top, there were only 2 games that we've just discussed now that ended up being played. The other 2 games, which were postponed due to wet weather, were Tuggeranong United against Canberra, Croatia, and the 4th match was Wagga City Wanderers against West Canberra Wanderers. So those 2 matches did not go ahead, but will be replayed at a later date. Matt, what are the round 18 fixtures?
Not long to go now in the regular season. The round 18 fixtures are Belconnen United against Canberra United Academy. Saturday, August 20th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. Next up, it's Gungahlin United against Wagga City Wanderers. Saturday, August 20th, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin Enclosed. West Canberra Wanderers versus Tuggeranong United. Sunday, August 21st, 12:45 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. And the big one, there's been 2 draws in the league so far this season between these 2 teams. Not much has separated them in terms of the league when they play each other, that is. And that's Canberra Croatia against Canberra Olympic, what Russ calls the Classico, the Canberra Classico. Sunday, August 21st, 2:30 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. Huge game. It'll be interesting to see if anything breaks the deadlock between these 2 sides, because like I just mentioned, there's only been 2 draws between them in the league, and Olympic did get a victory in the cup against Canberra, Croatia. But in terms of the league, they've been neck and neck. So it's in terms of results against each other. So it should be a very fascinating matchup. We move on to CPL, where we had some very, very interesting results here. Let's start one at the Riverina. Wagga City Wanderers 9, Yoogali 2. Yoogali got off to a flying start away from home as they opened the scoring through Vitucci in the second minute. Wagga struck back 4 minutes later through Jack Plonges and then took the lead through Lucas in the 20th minute. Yoogali fought back to make it 2-2 as Vitucci bagged a brace. As it looked like Yoogali were getting, it was looking like a very, very competitive match. 2-2. Dean Armanini was sent off for, I believe, a second yellow 2 minutes later. Wagga regained the lead 4 minutes after being a man up and made it 3-2 as they headed into halftime as that score. And to quote your line, Russ, in CPL, in your CPL wrap-up this week, on the Capital Football website, Wagga was simply irresistible in the second half as they scored 6 more goals against one-man Yoogali. One man down Yoogali. Jake Plone just grabbed 2 more goals for a hat trick. Thompson scored a brace as well as Ocheng getting on the scoreboard, and Flanagan rounding out the afternoon. The win for Wagga is huge for them as they separate the gap between them and White Eagles and Brindis by 7 points. White Eagles still have 2 matches in hand, though. Wagga also only trail Queanbeyan City as they travel to Queanbeyan this weekend as well, which should be another incredible matchup, all full of goals. Yoogali, on the other hand, the red card, you can tell it changed the game for them, and it's safe to say the extensiveness of that scoreline in the second half was reflective of the card / being a man down, especially when you see how competitive that first half was. Credit to Wagga, though. They you need to beat what's in front of you, and they did take full advantage of that. The loss for Yoogali means they're now mathematically out of that top 4 race, though, as they are now 13 points behind with 4 matches to go. They will still be looking to pick a few scalps, though, I don't doubt, before the end of the season and try and finish as strong as possible. Any thoughts on this one, Russ? Bit of a wild score.
Yeah, I think we all picked it, didn't we?
Yeah.
After
yeah, sure.
5-0 last week to the bottom of the table, Weston Molonglo, I think the last thing we all expected was them to go and play the Riverina Derby and somehow win by 9 goals to 2. Incredible scoreline for them as well. Probably not helped, as you mentioned, by the send-off of Dean Armanini. It was a great opening, but it looked like it was going to be an East kind of score. I think it was a 2 apiece when he was sent off. But Wagga, the mind boggles. How can you lose 5-0 Western one week and then do that the week after? It's incredible. It was their Stampede stigma around as well. They auctioned the shirts off afterwards that they wore, the special kits, which maybe that was what it was. Maybe they were all fired up for that. But what a performance by them. For Yoogali, one of those days. I mean, it was nothing went right from them from start to finish. They got a couple of goals from Andrew Vitucci, but for them, it's just back to the drawing board and sweep that one under the carpet, pretend it didn't happen. Although, when it's your local rivals, I'm sure you'll be hearing about it for quite some time to come. For Wagga, it just goes to show that they're back on track, maybe, for that race for the top 4. And they've given themselves an opportunity now, and much like it is with in the Premier League, it's in their own hands. Because even if Eagles win their 2 games in hand, one of them against league leaders Tuggeranong and the other against Brindabella Blues, so they're not givens by any stretch of the imagination. They're still ahead of them on the ladder.
Yeah, next up we have Weston Molonglo, who played host to Canberra White Eagles. It ended in a 1-1 draw in this game as Baguette, who got on the score sheet for the hosts, and Kagler, a familiar face on the score sheet for White Eagles in what was a draw in this game. Hot off their first win of the season last week, like you sort of briefly mentioned just there. They backed it up with with gaining a point in this one. So it's been a good couple of weeks for Weston Molonglo in terms of performances and them turning those performances into points. And, they opened the scoring, 5 minutes after half time through Paget as a strong way, to begin the second half. And I think that sort of gave them a lot of confidence, scoring sort of so early in that second period would have sort of, set them up really well for, the remaining sort of 40 minutes that were to be played. You know, and we had, White Eagles, they had some opportunities in this match as well. They sort of started to get themselves into the contest a little bit more, in the second half. And, they capitalized on a very big opportunity that was missed by Weston Molonglo through Queanbeyan, who scored his 17th goal of the campaign in the 78th minute. He's been in great goal scoring form all season, and that's why he's, up there at the top of the charts when it comes to the top goal scorers in the CPL competition. Overall, the result means, Western have now picked up, 4 points in the space of just 2 games, whereas before that they had no points at all. So it's like I mentioned briefly at the top, it's been a very positive couple of performances in back-to-back weeks for them. And then on the flip side of that, the result means that Eagles are now 7 points behind the top 4 in 5th place and are ahead of the Brindis on goal difference there. So their goal difference is a massive plus 17, may I add. So that's a huge goal difference there. It's not all doom and gloom for Eagles, that as they still have sort of 2 games in hand, and one of them, I believe, will be played tomorrow night as this airs against Tuggeranong. So a huge game for Eagles in that respect. Russ, I mentioned there the sort of confidence that Western Molonglo have been able to accumulate over the past couple of weeks with, the win that they got last week and the draw in this one against a good White Eagles side. What were your thoughts on this result for them?
Great result for Weston Molonglo. You wonder where this form has been all season, don't you, really? They suddenly flicked a switch and they got the 3 points last week and they picked up another point this week. A good one against White Eagles, who will be frustrated because they will feel that they should have got the 3 points from this game. It's a game they would have targeted and gone, well, that will put us back into the mix, and they've slipped up, unfortunately for them. Look, I mean, it could have been worse. Michael Sellers had a great chance to make it 2-0 to Weston before Queanbeyan scored his 17th of the season, and as you said, he's been in great form. It's been good to see him scoring goals. The problem is for the White Eagles, he's the only one he's the only one that is scoring any goals at the moment. So they need everybody else to start weighing in again to give them a chance of getting into that top 4. Otherwise, they'll start to slip away from them. However, Western have got matches to come against teams in and around there as well. So if they can keep up the same form that they've got here, they'll be hard to beat again. Starts for White Eagles on Wednesday. Really tough game against Tuggeranong United, who are all but up in that division, as we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one that Wednesday night. And White Eagles, we know they've got the quality. We know that they're good. That goal difference you mentioned might come into play at some stage, but they need to start picking up more points. Draws at the moment aren't good enough for them.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Russ. Matt, what's our next matchup?
Our next matchup is Brindabella Blues 1-3 loss to ANU. Deans, Neeson, and Model with the goals for ANU, and Weekly with the goal for Brindabella Blues. ANU opened the scoring after Deans ran on the end of an absolutely terrific through ball and hit it past the keeper through a tough angle on the right side. ANU made it 2-0 3 minutes later as they took a corner, and the rebound fell to Neeson, who propped it up himself and struck it midair for an absolute banger of a goal. And it literally soared past everyone in that box. The Brindis weren't going to be kept down, though, and they halved the deficit 5 minutes later as Paget received the ball from a throw-in and saw the keeper slightly off his line and struck an absolute beauty of a shot just below the crossbar, leaving the keeper no real chance there. ANU sealed their victory just before the end of the game as Chase Deans did some terrific work, which ended with him crossing it to Model for a pinpoint header in the back of the net. Huge victory for ANU, as this is not only their 4th consecutive victory on the trot, but they are now also above Queanbeyan in 2nd place by 1 point. Unfortunately for the Brindis, though, this means that the loss that they dropped to 6th place and are now 7 points off the top 4 with one match in hand behind White Eagles on goal difference, who, of course, like we've mentioned, have 2 games in hand. Another win for ANU, Russ. What'd you make of this result?
5 in a row, isn't it? And they've moved themselves into second place on the ladder, and they're flying at the moment. And this is what we expected from ANU at the start of the season. And all the damage was done in that 3-minute spell in the second half when Chase Deans and Liam Neeson scored the first 2 goals of the game to give them the advantage. And it was an advantage that they deserved based on the game. Brindabella Blues are a really hard nut to crack, especially on their own patch. And when Isaac Weekly pulled one back for them, you thought, well, maybe they could turn this around, and they had to rely on that late strike from Maximilian Mottel to get them over the line. But Talas Safar's turned them around a bit, hasn't he? They had a rough start to the season. There's a bit of a yo-yoing aspect to it. And, you know, they're not out of the title race, but it's going to take a miraculous recovery or a slump from Tuggeranong for them to be able to close that gap. I mean, they could start this weekend by beating Tuggeranong at Canberra, but you'd still expect United to have too much to win the title. But for ANU, it's about now, I think, finishing second on the ladder. If they can stay above Queanbeyan City, then they've given themselves a second chance, you know, that finals football, that shot that they want. You know, we've said before, you always want to finish second rather than third or fourth, because if you finish third or fourth, you've got to beat everybody in the top 4 to win the grand final, and that's a really tricky ask week on week on week. Great result for them again. I'm sure Brindabella will be back for a bit more as well. And, you know, Ray Junior's young side there, he'll keep plugging away with them. If he can keep that same group together and maybe add a couple more to it next year, they could be real contenders.
Certainly could. Michael, what do we have next? An absolutely interesting result, to say the least, over at High Street this weekend.
Yeah, very much so, Matt. It was our last game of CPL for this round. It was Queanbeyan City 2, Tuggeranong United 6. So Mensa got a double for Queanbeyan in the first half. And then for Tuggeranong United, Stevens also grabbed a brace. Busnell, Walker, Hislop, and Hajdu also got on the score sheet. For the away team, you know, Queanbeyan obviously got off to a fantastic start in this game. You know, they went 2-0 up through Mensa scoring, 2 goals there in the first 16 minutes of play. So he couldn't really have asked for a better start for Queanbeyan City, who obviously would have been very motivated coming into this game to want to get a result. And that really showed in that first sort of 16 minutes of play where they were able to jump out to a 2-0 lead. The goals, it was, a long sort of throw into the box, which allowed Michael Mensa to get on the end of, a great header into the side netting. And, he was able to obviously double his goal tally, not too long after that. It was a brilliant ball over the top from, the Queanbeyan defensive half over the Tuggers defense, and Mensa sort of chested it down and, hit it first time after a bounce. So, I mean, it was a great goal, very well taken in that regard. And, just when it looked like, Queanbeyan would, head into the halftime interval with momentum, incredibly, Tuggies hit back with 4 goals in the space of 7 minutes on the verge of the break, which just goes to show you how crazy football can be and how the tide can sort of change at any given moment. And that was, a prime example of something like that happening. And obviously a massive shot to Queanbeyan's confidence in this one. Like I mentioned, after having that good start, to then have 4 goals pinged against you in the space of such a short time before the halftime break would have been an absolute killer to their confidence. And, Luke Stevens began the scoring, with a well-placed corner sneaking in at the near post. Busnell hit an absolute cracker from outside the box, to bring his team level. And then 2 minutes later, Sam Walker placed a nice header into the back of the net to put Tuggeranong 3-2 in front. And then Stevens got his second goal to make it 4-2, sort of on the verge of halftime after sort of a great piece of play from the Tuggeranong United team. So that just sort of highlights, obviously, how good Tuggeranong United have been this season, the clear sort of front runners in the CPL. And I mean, there's not too many teams out there that can score 4 goals, in 7 minutes. We saw Lewandowski score 5 goals in 9 minutes not too long ago. And, Tuggeranong United tried to match sort of some similar efforts in that way. Naturally after, such a blitz of a first half from the scoring front, it was a little bit sort of quieter in the second half towards the end of the game. And, in the 84th minute, that's where Tuggeranong sort of won the ball back up high up the pitch, and, Hislop made it 5, and then Hadju completed the scoring at 6-2 with a cracking shot that sort of glided into the top left corner. So a great goal to sort of cap off their performance for Tuggeranong United. And the victory means for them that they're now sort of 10 points clear of Queanbeyan and 9 points clear of ANU, with still having a game in hand. So, like Russ mentioned, it's really theirs to lose at this point. They've looked absolutely sensational and very dominant throughout the year. And, in terms of Queanbeyan, it'll be a very tough loss for them to accept, like I mentioned, because they had started so well, getting out to a 2-0 lead. They just weren't able to obviously hold on to that, and they couldn't stop the onrush that Tuggeranong sort of presented there in that first half, where they scored the 4 goals in such a short amount of time. Just goes to show you how sort of, how quickly things can change, but how clinical teams can be, and, how dangerous they can be when they take their chances as well. So, I mean, Tuggeranong displayed that to effective, brilliance. They were absolutely sensational from that sort of point of view. And, Queanbeyan now sort of fall behind ANU by 1 point into third. So they were actually occupying that second spot there for quite a while, Queanbeyan. But given their sort of recent form, and then obviously the loss in this game, it sees them fall behind ANU, who now sit in second place. And I mean, that's going to do a little bit of it's going to shoot their confidence just slightly. I mean, we always say that you can't hold your heads too low. You got to get back up, and you got to play again next week. And that's exactly what Queanbeyan will have to do. But Russ, I mean, what a performance from Tuggeranong. But I mean, Queanbeyan got off to the start that they would have, they would have dreamt for, to have a 2-0 advantage after 16 minutes. But, like I said, in football, things can change very, very quickly, can't they?
Yeah, they certainly can. And Tuggeranong have been doing that all season to teams. They score quick-fire goals in rapid amount of time, and they did it on the weekend. And after Michael Mensah's brace, you thought Queanbeyan City might be in with a shout here, and they held on till 7 minutes from half-time. But there's a pivotal moment in that game, and it came from that corner from Luke Stevens. And if you watch the video, you can almost see Queanbeyan City visibly wilt. The keeper probably should have cleared it. Had a bit of a flap at it for whatever reason, when he was unsighted or whatever. Dropped it into the net, and all of a sudden Tuggeranong back in the contest. And Declan Smith was there for me on the weekend, keeping me updated while I'm in the South of the match for Belconnen. And I asked him at half time, I said, what was the crowd reaction like to them conceding 4 goals in such a short space of time? And his response was quite telling. And he was like, well, there wasn't one. It was because they were too stunned and too shocked at what they just witnessed. And I've watched the video and I've watched the goals, and Harrison Bunel's goal is an absolute belter. He struck it so well in off the underside of the bar. 7 goals this season from him, from central defence. And talked about what Eagles earlier about how they're not giving the goals, sharing them around. Well, Pat Hislop's now got 10. Luke Stevens, I think, has got 14. Sam Walker leads the golden boot with 18. And you've got Harrison Bunel with 7. Mark Richards with 6. And that tells you all you need to know while they're top of the table. They share the goals around. They score them in huge amounts. They score them at times of the games that are important, and they score them in packets. And when you're playing against it, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know it's going to come, and you're waiting for it. So when the first one goes in, it's almost as if your shoulders slump and you go, well, here they go. It's like what Canberra Croatia used to do back in the day in first grade. You thought you had them, you think you've got them under control, and then bang, 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 you're chasing a football match. But they're top of the table. they've got a game on Wednesday. They can't win the league on Wednesday, but they would go 12 points clear with 12 points available. It'll all be but done. Either way, they can wrap it up on Saturday or Sunday with ANU at Canberra too. If they can win that game, it won't matter what happens on Wednesday because they will be champions. And I have a very large silver trophy sitting in my car at the moment, which will be probably making its way to Tuggeranong United on Sunday for that eventuality, much as we will have one in our car for Deacon Stadium on Saturday evening, if they need it as well, because we want to start presenting these trophies with the achievements that has been done at the venue so that the fans can see it, and that's what it's all about. In saying that, and you won't lie down. We mentioned them. They're not going to go there to make up the numbers. They don't want to spoil the party. They'll feel they can still get themselves back into this race. For Queanbeyan City, I think you mentioned it quite succinctly, to be honest, in part of your review there, Michael, that they seem to have been now, once they went 4-2 behind, they've gone, well, it's gone for us. Promotion is unlikely now. They've got to regroup and find the mettle to come back and play finals football because they've got a good team and they've had moments this season where we watched them play and go, geez, these guys are Premier League quality. Unfortunately for them, it's been few and far between, and when they come up against a side like Tuggeranong, they got blown off the park. Now, Goran Jozefovski will take a look at that. He's been around long enough to understand and put his hand up and go, okay, one of those days, we probably should have done better. We probably should have been able to hold it at 2-1 at half time, or even 2-2. But it's a learning curve for some of those young boys that he's got in his team, and he's got more experienced players too, of course, and melding them together. But the fitness, the pace, the power, the finishing quality of Tuggeranong United, you can't take anything away from them. They thoroughly deserve the victory, even to the stage in the second half where they almost up sticks and go, well, we'll knock the ball around, we'll keep it for a bit, we don't need it anymore. And then when Queanbeyan were reduced to 10, they took advantage, as good teams do, and added a couple more. And congratulations to Mitch Stevens and his team, and what it looks like being an automatic return to NPL1.
Yeah, Matt, the round 18 fixtures before we sign off.
Yeah, the fixtures are Weston Molonglo against Brindabella Blues to kick off round 18. Saturday, August 20th, 2:45 p.m. at Woden Park enclosed. Queanbeyan City versus Wagga City Wanderers, Saturday, August 20th, 3 p.m. at High Street. Tuggeranong United versus ANU FC, Sunday, August 21st, 3 p.m. at Canberra 201. And Yoogali SC against Canberra White Eagles, Sunday, August 21st, 3 p.m. at Solar Mad Stadium. Russ, thank you very much for joining us today. Any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, I do. Keep an eye out because on, or maybe Wednesday this week, we'll be announcing a rather special football match for next Wednesday evening in the nation's capital. We will announce that over our social media channels for you guys on Wednesday. Should be a good one. Really looking forward to that as well. Great stuff as well, once again, boys. And we've got matches this weekend which are going to be really, really key to where we go in the final series across all competitions as well. And WNPL this weekend, I'm back on the mic with Maddie Moore on Sunday for Canberra Croatia versus Canberra Olympic, which obviously you'll talk WNPL later, but it's that's going to be a great game. Looking forward to that because that's almost a title decider as well. So we could well have a few trophies up for grabs this weekend. It's that time of year, isn't it? Everyone gets really excited about winning the title, whatever grade you're at. Also, make sure I put a note on the Canberra Football website and social media, Community Player of the Month Awards for August. The July winners were Ty Reid from Bell North State League and Millie Dove from the ANU Women's State League team as well. This is a great opportunity for you to win a 6-month membership to Club Lime, and also, the opportunity to have your name up in lights and everybody in Canberra to read about why you're the Community Player of the Month. And I'd encourage all the clubs that are listening to this, whatever grade you're at, whatever team you play for, get online and start voting for that. And we also have our Capital Chemist Community Volunteer of the Month. Chance for you guys out there to help recognise people who help your club run every week. So knock yourself out, get online and do that. And it should be great.
Thanks for joining us again, Russ. Michael, last words?
No, so, I mean, some cracking games obviously will be on display this weekend, and I can't wait to see sort of what unfolds in terms of results and what they mean for, finals football and relegation battles and whatnot. So looking forward to sort of dissecting it all again very, very soon. And yeah, I just can't wait for the action.
We'll see you later.
I've got one more thing to say though. This time next week, we'll be just warming up for Manchester United versus Liverpool on Tuesday morning, when United will obviously rediscover all their form that's been missing and play like they did in pre-season and win about 6-0.
I think that's a great way to sign off.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Episode 64. Have a great one, everybody.